Have you ever wondered why life seems to reveal its most valuable lessons only after the years have passed? It's as if time itself is a teacher, offering us wisdom through each trial, each joy, and each quiet moment of reflection. As we grow older, we start to look back, not with regret, but with clarity. What have we truly learned? What have we missed along the way? And perhaps the most important question, what really matters? For many of us, the answer lies in the timeless wisdom of Buddhist philosophy. It teaches us to embrace the present moment, to release the grip of attachments, and to find peace in the here and now. But these lessons didn't come overnight. They've been shaped by time, by hardship, by growth. Over 5 decades of living, and still, I'm learning every day. In this video, I'll share with you the profound lessons I've uncovered throughout my journey. Lessons rooted in Buddhist teachings, but tested and refined through life itself. These aren't just words on a page. They are living truths that I've come to embody. So if you're ready to explore how to live with more peace, purpose, and clarity, then join me as we dive into the life lessons that have transformed my world. Let's begin. 1. You are the main character of your own life. It's easy to forget the most fundamental truth about our existence, that you are the main character of your own life. In the rush of everyday living, we can get so caught up in comparison, constantly measuring ourselves against others, as if their success or failures define our own. We measure our worth by the milestones others have reached, and, more often than not, we feel left behind. It's a dangerous cycle, but one that is so easy to fall into. We look at someone else's life, their career, their relationships, and it's almost instinctive to ask, am I doing enough? Should I be further along? But here's the thing, these comparisons don't help us. They only take us further away from what truly matters. Buddhist philosophy teaches us the truth of impermanence. Everything changes, including where others are on their journey. As the Buddha so wisely said, what you think you become. Our thoughts shape our reality. But if those thoughts are constantly shaped by the expectations and paths of others, we're simply giving up control over our own narrative. Imagine life as a vast, endless ocean, and your journey is the ship you sail. The winds might shift, the tides may rise and fall, and every wave presents a new challenge. But here's the catch. You are the captain of this ship. No one else can steer it for you. No one else can face the storm for you, or celebrate the calm, or choose the course ahead. And while it's tempting to look at another boat sailing alongside you, don't forget their journey is theirs, and yours is yours. Let me share a story. I remember a time when I was younger. Trying to keep pace with others, I felt like I had to follow a certain script, a plan that was laid out for me by society, by my peers, even by family expectations. I was living according to a story I thought I was supposed to be a part of. It wasn't until I took a step back, when I began to really sit with myself and question my true desires, that I realized I had been so busy trying to follow everyone else's map that I had forgotten to chart my own course. There's a moment in every person's life when the realization hits. This is my story to write. And that moment, though uncomfortable at first, is incredibly freeing. It's as if the weight of other people's expectations is lifted from your shoulders, and suddenly you can breathe again. You realize that you don't need to compare your journey to anyone else's. In fact, doing so only dims your own light. Looking back, I see that the most powerful lesson I've learned in my life has been to stop living for others and start living for myself. Sure, we care about what our loved ones think. We all want their approval and love. But at the end of the day, it's my own peace, my own authenticity, that matters most. The true freedom comes when you stop asking, what would they think, and start asking, am I being true to myself? It's all about finding your own path, the one that resonates deeply with your heart. Trust your inner compass, even when it seems to go against the current. That inner voice, the one that aligns with your deepest values, will always lead you where you need to go. And when you let go of comparing, when you stop trying to fit yourself into someone else's mold, you'll find that your life becomes your own beautiful, unique story. You are enough. Your journey is enough. And as you embrace it fully, you'll realize that there is no right or wrong way to live. There is only the path that is meant for you. Own it. Celebrate it. 2. Time is precious. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. One of the most powerful lessons I wish I had understood earlier is that there's no such thing as the perfect time. We all have that sneaky little voice in our heads that tells us, just wait a little longer. Things need to be perfect first. And oh, how easy it is to fall into that trap. Perfectionism, it's a seductive liar, isn't it? It keeps you thinking that there's a right moment, that things need to be lined up just so before you can take the leap. But here's the truth. Waiting for the perfect moment is what keeps you stuck in the same place. The Buddha's wisdom comes in strong here, reminding us that now is all we truly have. The future, it's uncertain. The past, it's already gone. What we have right in front of us is this very moment. How many times have you said to yourself, I'll start tomorrow, or once things settle down, I'll focus on what really matters? I know I've said it more times than I care to admit. And the thing is, those perfect moments, they don't come. The stars will never align perfectly, and the universe won't magically open up a door for you to step through when the timing is just right. I remember a time in my life when I kept pushing things off, waiting for the perfect time to change careers, to pursue a dream, to start something new. I kept telling myself, once I'm ready, once I've got all the answers, I'll take that step. And years passed. The only thing that changed was my frustration, my growing sense of what if. I kept thinking about the things I could have done, the things I wanted to experience, but I never did because I was too busy waiting. Then one day, a friend of mine shared something that completely changed my perspective. He said, you know, there's no perfect time. There's only the time you choose to make perfect by taking action. That simple statement struck me like a thunderbolt. I realized that by waiting, I wasn't getting any closer to my goals. In fact, I was moving farther away. The perfect moment would never come, but the moment I decided to act would be the one that would shape my future. The truth is, every second is a new opportunity to take that first step, no matter how small. It's the little shifts in the here and now that compound over time to create something beautiful. So I took a deep breath and made that shift. I stopped putting things off. Even the smallest action was progress. Whether it was updating my resume or taking a class, every step, no matter how small, was one step closer to where I wanted to be. That's the power of living in the present. When you embrace today as the moment to act, when you stop waiting for things to be perfect, everything changes. It's not about taking giant leaps. It's about taking that first small step, and then the next, and the next. Over time, those small shifts create a path of transformation. And believe me, when you look back, you'll see that all those little moments, those imperfect starts, have led you to a life you could never have imagined if you kept waiting for perfect. So here's my advice to you. Stop waiting. Start now. Even if it's just a tiny step, take it. Trust that now is the perfect time to start, and that the future will thank you for the action you take today. As I've learned, the moment is now, and that's all we need to begin. 3. Listen to your body's wisdom. As the years pass, our bodies begin to reveal something incredible. They aren't just vessels for our thoughts and feelings, they're wise companions guiding us through life. It's easy to think of the body as simply the physical part of our existence, something to care for, but not necessarily something with its own voice. Yet in Buddhism, the mind-body connection is central to understanding ourselves. Our bodies hold wisdom, and the more we tune into it, the more we realize that our physical sensations are often the first indicators of what our minds are struggling to process. There have been moments in my life when I felt an unmistakable yes deep within my chest. It's that feeling of excitement, like a spark that ignites, telling me that I'm on the right path, that I'm making the right choice. It's exhilarating and clear. Then there are the moments when I feel the opposite, a tightness in my stomach, a knot that forms when something feels off. It's the body's way of saying, "This isn't right for you," even before your mind can fully articulate why. It's like the body knows long before your thoughts can catch up. Let me share a story with you. A few years ago, I was in a situation where everything on the surface seemed perfect. A new opportunity, a chance for growth. Everything about it seemed aligned with my goals. Yet, deep inside, something didn't sit right. It wasn't fear. It wasn't doubt about my capabilities. It was more like a warning. The tightness in my gut told me that something was wrong. At first, I brushed it off, thinking it was just nerves, but it kept returning. That subtle unease never left me. Finally, I listened to my body. I took a step back, reevaluated, and walked away from that opportunity. And in hindsight, I realized how right my body had been. The decision that seemed like it would lead me to success wasn't actually in alignment with my true self. In the past, I would have ignored these bodily signals. I was too quick to rationalize or dismiss them, thinking they were just fleeting feelings. But over the years, I've learned that when I listen closely to my body, when I honor its messages, I make better decisions. In Buddhism, mindfulness is a practice of being fully present in each moment, acknowledging not just our thoughts, but our emotions and physical sensations as well. It's about understanding that the body and mind are deeply interconnected, and when our minds are clouded with doubt or fear, it is often our body that has the clearest answer. Now I make it a habit to check in with myself throughout the day. When I feel a sense of discomfort, whether it's a knot in my stomach or a flutter in my chest, I pause. I ask myself, what is my body trying to tell me? It's not always easy, especially when the mind wants to push forward, but by slowing down and listening to my body, I've come to trust that its wisdom is often spot on. So, my advice to you, trust your intuition, trust your body. It may seem subtle at first, but with practice, you'll begin to notice how these signals help you navigate the world with more clarity and confidence. The body's wisdom, if honored, will never steer you wrong. Every moment of discomfort, every burst of excitement, is a signal guiding you on your journey. You don't need to have all the answers at once. Sometimes all you need is to listen. Your body is speaking. Are you paying attention? 4. Embrace boundaries for self-respect. In a world that constantly asks more from us than we can give, the art of setting boundaries becomes not only necessary, but essential. We live in a society where there's an ever-present demand to be available, to help, to please, to be everything to everyone. And the unfortunate truth is that many of us, especially as we age, can find ourselves worn thin, stretched to the breaking point, simply because we haven't learned the power of saying no. Buddhist philosophy teaches us about the middle way, the path between extremes. This principle isn't just for how we live our lives in balance with material wealth or indulgence, but also how we engage with others. Boundaries in this context become a crucial part of our self-care. It's about walking the line between being compassionate and overextending ourselves to the point of depletion. I can recall a period in my life when I was caught in a cycle of constant yeses. I said yes to work when I was exhausted. I said yes to family and friends when I needed time for myself. And all the while, I ignored the inner voice telling me that I needed to pause, to recharge. I was afraid to say no, afraid that others would think I was selfish, or worse, uncaring. But what I didn't realize was that each yes, no matter how small, was taking away from my own peace, my own well-being. One day, I had a conversation with a close friend, someone who had been both a mentor and a mirror for me. She said something that stuck with me. When you say no to something, you're actually saying yes to yourself. You're giving yourself the gift of space, of time, of peace. It was like a light bulb went off in my mind. I realized that no didn't need to come with an explanation. It didn't need to be followed by guilt or regret. No was simply a statement of self-respect. By learning to say no, I was, in fact, honoring myself. And so I began the practice of setting boundaries. At first, it felt uncomfortable. How many times had I said yes without thinking, without considering the toll it would take on my own energy? But little by little, I started to say no, not out of malice, not to reject others, but as a powerful act of self-care. I started to protect my energy and my time. And in doing so, I began to feel lighter, freer, more at peace. There's a story I'd like to share that helped me internalize this lesson. I remember a time when I had been invited to an event, something that, on the surface, seemed like an opportunity to connect with people I cared about. But deep down, I felt drained at the mere thought of it. It was one of those situations where I could feel my body's resistance. The no inside me was quiet, but it was unmistakable. For years, I would have ignored that feeling, telling myself that I should go, that I should make the effort. But this time, I listened. I picked up the phone and politely said, "I'm afraid I won't be able to make it." There was no need for a long explanation, just a simple, "I can't." And here's the beautiful thing: by saying no to that event, I said yes to something far more important. I said yes to my peace, to my need for rest, and to my own well-being. In the end, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel bad. I felt empowered. I had made the space for something more nourishing for my soul. That moment was a small victory in learning how to embrace boundaries with love and respect for myself and for others. As we age, we come to understand that not every relationship, not every situation is worth our energy. And that's not just okay, it's necessary. By learning to say no with grace, we open up space for the people, the experiences, and the activities that truly nurture our spirit. Setting boundaries is an ongoing practice, but it's one that offers immense rewards. When you honor yourself in this way, you create the room to thrive, to grow, and to fully live in alignment with what matters most. So remember, no can be a full sentence. It's not a rejection of others. It's an affirmation of your own worth. And trust me, as you embrace this practice, you'll begin to experience the freedom and peace that comes from protecting your energy and your soul. 5. You can't change others, only yourself. As we walk the path of life, we encounter countless people. Some of them will inspire us, fill us with admiration, and leave us with a sense of awe. Others, however, will frustrate us, disappoint us, or even hurt us in ways we never imagined. It's natural to want to change others, to shape them into something more aligned with our own desires or expectations. But here's the liberating truth I've learned. We cannot control how others behave. The only thing we truly have power over is ourselves, our actions, our thoughts, and our reactions. There was a time when I spent countless hours, days, and even years wishing people would act differently. I wished some of my friends were more considerate, others more understanding, and yet others less reactive. I felt a deep sense of frustration when their actions didn't align with what I thought was right or even fair. But the more I clung to these thoughts, the more miserable I became. Every time I wished for someone to change, I was only feeding my own frustration. One evening, I had a long conversation with an elderly monk I deeply respected. He had lived through so much, and I often turned to him for guidance. I confided in him my struggles with a few relationships that were weighing heavily on my heart. I wanted to change the way certain people treated me, to fix things that felt broken, but he simply looked at me and said, "The only thing you can control is yourself. The moment you stop trying to change others is the moment you will find peace." At first I didn't quite understand. How could I find peace if others kept hurting me? How could I just accept mistreatment and move on? But then it hit me. This wasn't about accepting mistreatment or injustice. It was about recognizing that no matter how much I wished someone would act differently, I couldn't change their behavior. And by constantly focusing on their flaws or actions, I was giving away my own peace. I was allowing their behavior to control my emotions, my thoughts, my state of mind. That realization was profound. Slowly, I began to shift my focus. Instead of wishing people would act differently, I started looking inward, asking myself, how can I respond differently? How can I change the way I handle these situations? The Buddhist teachings on mindfulness became a lifeline during this time. Through mindfulness, I learned to separate my reactions from the actions of others. Instead of automatically reacting to someone's harsh words or actions, I paused, took a breath, and reflected on what was within my control. For example, when I felt frustrated by someone's behavior, I would ask myself, what can I do to preserve my peace in this moment? It wasn't about accepting poor behavior or allowing it to continue unchecked, but about freeing myself from the emotional grip that others' actions had over me. I realized that by focusing on transforming my own responses, I could let go of the frustration and disappointment that had been draining me for so long. One story I remember vividly from this time was when I was involved in a challenging situation at work. A colleague was consistently dismissive of my ideas, often belittling them in front of others. I could feel the anger rising inside me every time it happened, and it seemed like no matter what I did, he wouldn't change. One day after another incident, I took a moment to sit quietly, breathing deeply. I let go of my immediate urge to react. Instead, I asked myself, how do I want to feel about this? The answer came slowly but clearly. I want to feel peaceful, not angry. I want to respond with grace, not resentment. So rather than reacting in the heat of the moment, I simply let the comment slide off my back, replying with calm and respect. I focused on maintaining my integrity, regardless of how he behaved. It wasn't about changing him, it was about changing me. That moment marked a turning point. I no longer felt like I was a prisoner to other people's actions. By practicing mindfulness, I freed myself from the constant cycle of wanting to control others and their behavior. I realized that peace doesn't come from changing the world around us. It comes from changing the way we engage with it. Letting go of the desire to change others doesn't mean you accept mistreatment, nor does it mean that you let injustice go unchecked. It simply means that you release the emotional burden of trying to control things that are beyond your control. When you stop clinging to the idea that others must change for you to be happy, you find freedom. You create space for inner peace to blossom, and as you embrace that peace, you allow yourself to respond in ways that reflect your true self, not a reaction to someone else's behavior. So, as I've learned, let go, not of your values, not of your sense of right and wrong, but of the emotional grip that others have on your peace. Focus on transforming yourself, and you'll find that the world around you begins to shift in ways you never imagined. 6. Embrace growth over perfection. Perfectionism is a dangerous trap, one that entangles us in a web of unattainable standards. We live in a world that often equates success with flawless performance. We believe that only when we achieve perfection, whether in our careers, our relationships, or our personal selves, will we be truly worthy. But here's the hard truth I've learned: perfection doesn't exist, and striving for it only holds us back from experiencing the beauty of growth. Buddhism teaches us to embrace imperfection, for it is in our flaws, our mistakes, and our vulnerabilities that we truly connect with the world around us. I remember a time when I tried to be perfect at everything. I thought that if I didn't do things perfectly, I would be seen as weak, incompetent, or unworthy of love. I set impossibly high standards for myself, both at work and in my personal life. If I made a mistake, I would beat myself up for days, obsessing over every tiny detail that didn't go according to plan. But the harder I tried to be perfect, the more anxious and frustrated I became. It was like running on a treadmill that never stopped, each step forward only bringing me closer to exhaustion without any real progress. Then one day, I stumbled upon a story that shifted my perspective completely. It was about a young artist who spent years trying to create the perfect piece of work. She would start a painting, only to tear it up because it wasn't flawless. Each time she made a mistake, she would give up, convinced that it wasn't good enough. Her mentor, an older, wiser artist, noticed her struggle and sat her down. He shared a simple yet profound piece of advice. Perfection doesn't exist, but growth does. Every mistake you make brings you closer to your truth. Embrace it. This story stuck with me because it highlighted a fundamental truth about life. It's not about reaching a final state of perfection. It's about learning, evolving, and becoming a better version of yourself each day. The Buddha teaches that through suffering, through hardship, we find our deepest wisdom. And that wisdom isn't found in flawless achievements. It's found in the moments when we stumble, fall, and get back up again. It's in the moments when we're kind to ourselves, despite our flaws, when we see our mistakes as opportunities for growth rather than failures. I remember a particularly challenging period in my life when I was faced with a decision that seemed impossible. I could either continue down a path that felt safe but stagnant, or I could take a risk and face the uncertainty of a new direction. I was terrified. The perfectionist in me wanted everything to line up perfectly before I took the leap. But I realized that I would never be perfectly ready. If I kept waiting for everything to be flawless, I would never move forward. I chose to embrace the discomfort of uncertainty, and that decision changed the course of my life. It wasn't a perfect decision, and the path wasn't without its challenges. But each step I took, each mistake I made along the way, became part of my growth. I learned things about myself I never would have discovered if I had waited for the perfect moment to act. What I've come to understand is that imperfection is what makes us human. It's what connects us to others, to the earth, and to the universe itself. Perfection isolates us, but when we embrace imperfection, we open ourselves to a life of constant learning, growing, and evolving. Every day, no matter how small the progress, is an opportunity to become a better version of ourselves. So the next time you find yourself striving for perfection, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this moment help me grow? Instead of trying to be flawless, focus on being better, kinder, more resilient than you were yesterday. Celebrate the small wins, the lessons learned from mistakes, and the beauty of your unique journey. After all, life isn't about perfection, it's about growth. And in that growth, we find our truest selves. 7. Simplify to find joy. We often find ourselves searching for happiness outside of ourselves, chasing after material possessions, success, and recognition. We think that the next big purchase, the next promotion, or the admiration of others will fill that inner void and bring us true joy. But in the end, we're often left feeling empty, like we've been chasing something just out of reach. I've realized that the key to lasting happiness isn't found in external achievements or objects. It's found in simplicity. It's the quiet moments, the sound of laughter shared with loved ones, the peaceful solitude of an afternoon spent doing nothing. These are the treasures that truly nourish the soul. Let me share a story. Several years ago, I was caught up in the frantic rush of life, busy with work, social obligations, and constantly acquiring more and more things. I thought that happiness was something I could buy, that I could arrange my life into perfect order with just the right items, the right experiences. But as time went on, I realized that no matter how much I had, I never felt complete. There was always something missing, always a sense of dissatisfaction. One day, I decided to take a different approach. I began to simplify. It started with my living space. I cleared out the clutter, donated things I no longer needed, and began to really assess what I actually valued. I was amazed at how much weight I felt, lifted when I let go of things I didn't need. There was a profound sense of freedom in that simplicity. My space felt lighter, my mind clearer, and it wasn't just my environment that became simpler. I started simplifying my schedule as well. I said no to things that drained my energy and said yes to the things that brought me joy. Quiet mornings with a cup of tea, long walks in nature, time spent with the people who mattered most. Buddhist philosophy teaches us that the more we clutter our lives with unnecessary things, the more we obscure the peace that is already within us. The Buddha spoke often about non-attachment, the idea that our suffering often comes from our desire to hold on to things that don't bring us true happiness. When we constantly accumulate possessions, status, or distractions, we build walls around ourselves, preventing the peace within from reaching the surface. But when we let go of excess, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, we create space. Space for peace, space for love, space for connection. One of the most profound lessons I've learned on this journey is how simplifying my environment has created a sense of calm I never expected. At first, it was just about tidying up my physical space, but as I continued to let go of things that no longer served me, I began to feel lighter inside as well. It wasn't just the possessions, it was also the mental clutter, the unnecessary worries, the constant striving, the comparison to others. As I simplified, I started to notice the joy that was always there but had been buried under layers of distraction. A few months into this practice, I took a weekend trip alone. I didn't have a packed itinerary or a list of things I should do. I simply sat by the water, listening to the waves, feeling the breeze on my face, and reflecting on the simplicity of just being. That weekend marked a turning point for me. It wasn't the excitement of new experiences or the thrill of socializing. It was the quiet, the stillness. And in that stillness, I found a kind of joy I had been searching for in all the wrong places. And the best part, This practice of simplifying continues to unfold. Every time I release something I no longer need, whether it's a physical possession or a mental habit, I make room for more peace, more joy, and more of the quiet wisdom that comes with living a simpler, more intentional life. It's not about deprivation or living without. It's about consciously choosing what matters most and letting go of the rest. The beauty of simplicity is that it doesn't just free up space in your home, it frees up space in your heart. It allows you to focus on what really brings you joy, what really nurtures your soul, and to savor every precious moment. So, I encourage you to start small. Let go of one thing today, something that no longer serves you, and watch how it opens up a little more room for peace, for clarity, and for the joy that's been waiting for you all along. Conclusion. As we take a moment to reflect on the lessons that life has graciously taught us, we must remember that the journey is never truly over. Each new day is another opportunity, a chance to learn, to grow, and to become even more aligned with the essence of who we truly are. In a world that constantly pushes us toward perfection, let us embrace imperfection instead, for it is in our flaws that we find our humanity. Let us set boundaries, not as walls to keep others out, but as spaces of love and self-respect where we can thrive. And most importantly, let us trust ourselves, for the wisdom we seek is already within us. As the Buddha so wisely said, "You are the master of your destiny. Your life, my friend, is your story to write. Don't let anyone else hold the pen. You are enough, just as you are, with all your beauty, your strength, your flaws, and your growth. So keep shining your light, no matter how bright or small, and share your unique wisdom with the world, for it is needed now more than ever." Thank you truly for being here and walking with me on this journey of self-discovery and growth. The path may be long, but it is one we can walk together, in peace, in love, and in the quiet wisdom that comes from embracing every moment. If you found value in this video, if you feel inspired to continue this journey of wisdom and reflection, I invite you to subscribe to Quiet Wisdom and join our community. Together, we will continue to learn, grow, and shine our lights, each one brighter than before. Until next time, may you walk your path with clarity, peace, and endless love. Thank you for being here.